Hey, it's me, MLB. This is chapter 39 of Touch. This one is titled Countryside. After explaining a little more, your estranged uncle let Hawks in. We put my sister back in her room just now because we didn't know who was at the door and I was worried it was him, your uncle said. We'd let her out, but she's still insisting on being let go so that she can go back home to be there for her husband, and we have to watch her like a hawk, excuse the pun, so she doesn't escape. Love the pun, Hawk said with a chuckle. So she really did get addicted to his quirk, huh? He added with a sigh as he walked in and sat down at the table. Just then the other male in the house poked his head around the corner. Hawks, this is my boyfriend. This is Brian, your estranged uncle said, gesturing to the beaming face that had popped out from behind the wall. Didn't see that coming, Hawks said with a laugh. How are you? He said as he smiled and stood up to reach out for the guy's hand. Oh my God, the boyfriend said as he scooted forward and shook Hawks' hand. I'm freaking out right now. I can't believe you're in my house, he squealed, fanning himself rapidly. God, Brian, can you please chill for just a moment, please? Your uncle said with an exaggerated sigh to his overt boyfriend. Sorry, Hawks, he's a big fan, he added to the winged hero. Hawks chuckled. It's always a pleasure to meet a fan, he said with his signature smile, looking from your uncle to the boyfriend. Brian squealed and balled his fists up by his side, shaking rapidly. Babe, would you mind checking on my sister? Your uncle deadpanned to his overtly excited man. Oh, sure thing, babes. Nice to meet you, Hawks. Toodles, Brian said as he held his hand up and wiggled his fingers in flamboyant departure, then sashayed out of the room. Nice guy, Hawks chuckled. He's extra, but I love him, your uncle said, shaking his head. Listen, would you let me talk to your sister? Hawks asked your uncle. I think it's good that she's away from her husband, but I think she might need professional help. Oh, I think so too, but we were too scared to take her anywhere in case he found her and took her. At least here she's safe, your uncle said. That's very wise of you, Hawks replied, but I'll guarantee her safety. I promise you he won't get her. That's really good of you, Hawks, your uncle said with a relieved sigh. I'll take you to her room. He led Hawks out of the dining area and down the hall to a door. Hey, sis, there's someone here to see you, your uncle called as he unlocked the door from the outside. Is it my husband? Your mum gasped hopefully as she ran to the door. She came face to face with Hawks. Hawks, she wailed happily. Oh, you're here to save me, she gushed as she flung her arms around him. Please take me back to the apartment so that my husband won't be worried. He's probably there right now, worrying about where I am. Hi, Mrs. Lynn, Hawks said in a friendly voice, his face mere inches from hers. How are you? So much better now that you're here to help me, she gushed again, pulling her body against his. He remained steadfast with his hands in his pockets. I have some bad news for you, Mrs. Lynn. Unfortunately, your husband didn't end up coming back to the apartment. It was never his intention to do so, Hawks said in a calm voice. But he said he misses us and wanted to come back, she said in confusion, as she let go of Hawks and stepped back. I know, Hawks said sympathetically. It was a cruel trick. Your mum's bottom lip started to quiver slightly. No, he doesn't lie. If he says he's going to do something, he does it. And he said he was coming back. Are you lying to me, Hawks? Are you lying about him not being there? He's waiting for me, isn't he? She said, her sadness and confusion turning to despair and desperation at being kept from him. Let me go, please. Take me to him. Why are you all trying to keep me from him? She wailed, her agitation becoming more and more apparent. Would I lie to you, Mrs. Lynn? Hawks asked calmly as he tilted his head to the side slightly. Well, I don't know, she said. Why are you stopping me from seeing him? I'm not, Miss Lynn. I'm just saying he's not home, Hawks said gently. And you're not going to like what I have to say next, but it's important that I tell you, even if you don't believe me. I know who your husband is, and I know about his quirk, and you've been under the influence of his quirk for so long that you no longer know how to regulate without it. Your mum stared at him in utter confusion. What do you mean? She asked blankly. Under the influence of his quirk? I don't know what you're saying. Oh, he's been doing it so subtly that she's no longer recognising that it's happening, Hawks thought. When you were sad, did your husband ever touch you with his quirk to make you feel happy? Hawks asked your mum. Well, yes, of course, because he cares about me and wanted to cheer me up, your mum replied. And did he ever touch you with his quirk to make you feel guilty or remorseful whenever you went against his wishes? He asked, watching your mum closely for her reaction. Well, yes, but I would have felt that way anyway, your mum said loudly. He's not a manipulator. He does it because he cares. No, he's a manipulator, your uncle said in a bland voice from the doorway. You're being biased. You've hated him from the very beginning, your mum yelled at him. And can you blame me? He cut us all off from seeing you. He's a horrible person, your uncle shouted back. He's a big fat meanie, Brian chimed in from behind his boyfriend. Stay out of this, Brian, your mum yelled at the effeminate male. There was a distressed gasp from behind your uncle, and Hawks cut in at that point. Okay, drama central. Let's quit while we're ahead, Hawks said as he stepped between your mum and your uncle. I'm sorry, Mrs. Lynn, but I'll be leaving you here for now in the safety of this house with your brother and his man. Thank you, Hawks, your uncle replied. Hawks nodded at him and then turned and nodded to your mum before walking out. Brian took over from there and Hawks and your uncle walked back to the front of the house. Keep her here and safe, and I'll arrange for her to stay at a mental health respite, and I'll let you know where and when once I have her details admitted, Hawks said to your uncle. Thank you ever so much, Hawks. I really appreciate it. I hate seeing her like this, and I just want her well again, your uncle said sadly. Hawks nodded and smiled as he stepped out the door and walked out. It's nice out here, he said, looking around at the quiet countryside. Very peaceful, your uncle agreed. Perfect place to bring up a family, Hawks mused. Well, the house over there, that way, is just for sale, your uncle hinted, wondering if Hawks was looking for a place. Is it now? Hawks asked, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. Well, thanks for that. You might just end up with some new neighbours, he said cheekily. Well, if it's you, it would be a pleasure, your uncle said with a laugh. Hawks smiled and walked a little way out before turning and flicking your uncle a salute. Thank you again, your uncle said to Hawks as he took off. And that's the end of chapter 39. Stay tuned for chapter 40.